W.C. Fields, born William Claude Duquesne on January 29, 1880, is remembered as one of the most iconic and influential comedians of the early 20th century. His sharp wit, biting sarcasm, and trademark gruffness made him a beloved figure in American entertainment, both in vaudeville and in early Hollywood. Fields' persona, a cantankerous misanthrope with a penchant for strong drink and an eye for a quick buck, became legendary, shaping not only his career but also the very fabric of American comedy. However, behind the scenes, Fields' life was far more complex, riddled with personal struggles, physical ailments, and a deep sense of isolation that ultimately led to a tragic and lonely end. William Claude Duquesne was born in Darby, Pennsylvania, to a family that struggled to make ends meet. His father, James Lydon Duquesne, was an itinerant fruit merchant with little patience for his son's dreams of escaping a life of poverty. Young William's childhood was harsh. He faced a difficult relationship with his father, who was often critical and unsupportive. This environment fostered in Fields a deep-seated resentment of authority and a fierce determination to succeed on his own terms. Fields left home at the tender age of 11, seeking refuge from his turbulent family life. He took on various odd jobs, working as a newsboy, a clerk, and even a dishwasher, while secretly nurturing his dream of becoming a performer. By his teenage years, Fields had already started developing the skills that would later make him famous. He taught himself to juggle, and soon enough, he began performing in local carnivals and theaters. Despite lacking formal education, Fields was a quick learner, soaking up knowledge and perfecting his craft through relentless practice. Fields' entry into the world of vaudeville was not immediate. The early years of his career were marked by relentless touring, small-time gigs, and a seemingly endless stream of rejections. Yet, his persistence paid off. Fields' unique blend of physical comedy, juggling prowess, and deadpan humor began to set him apart from other performers. His ability to engage audiences with a mixture of wit and physical comedy earned him a reputation as a rising star on the vaudeville circuit. One of Fields' most famous acts during this period was his Pool Shark routine, where he portrayed a bumbling hustler who somehow always managed to win despite his apparent incompetence. The routine was a perfect showcase of Fields' comedic timing, his mastery of physical gags, and his ability to make the absurd seem believable. By the early 1900s, Fields had solidified his status as one of vaudeville's top acts, earning him both fame and a steady income. Fields' success in vaudeville naturally led to opportunities in the burgeoning film industry. In 1915, he made his first appearance in a short silent film titled Pool Sharks, which capitalized on his popular vaudeville routine. The film, though short, was a hit, and it marked the beginning of Fields' long and fruitful relationship with the silver screen. During the silent film era, Fields continued to hone his craft, but it was with the advent of sound in the late 1920s that his career truly took off. Fields' voice, deep, gravelly, and dripping with sarcasm, became as much a part of his persona as his physical comedy. He starred in a string of successful comedies throughout the 1930s and early 1940s, including It's a Gift, 1934, The Bank Dick, 1940, and Never Give a Sucker an Even Break, 1941. In these films, Fields perfected the role of the lovable rogue, a man who, despite his many vices, always managed to come out on top. Fields' on-screen persona was a reflection of his own life experiences and views. His characters often displayed a distrust of authority, a love of drink, and a penchant for bending the rules, all traits that Fields himself exhibited. He became known for his biting one-liners, his cynical worldview, and his ability to find humor in life's many absurdities. Fields was not just a comedian, he was a social commentator, using his humor to poke fun at the hypocrisies and contradictions of American society. As his star continued to rise in Hollywood, Fields' personal life began to unravel. His public persona as a hard-drinking, cynical misanthrope was not far from the truth. Fields was a notorious alcoholic, and his drinking habits soon began to take a toll on his health. He suffered from a range of ailments, including cirrhosis of the liver, heart disease, and chronic bronchitis. His health problems were exacerbated by his heavy drinking, which became more severe as he grew older. Fields' personal relationships were also strained. He was notoriously difficult to work with, often clashing with directors, producers, and co-stars. His volatile temper and stubbornness made him a challenging figure in Hollywood, and many of his peers found him aloof and unapproachable. Fields' love life was equally tumultuous. He had a series of failed relationships and was estranged from his only son, Claude Fields, for much of his life. This estrangement weighed heavily on Fields, who, despite his gruff exterior, was deeply affected by the loss of connection with his family. Fields' declining health and personal troubles began to impact his career. By the late 1930s, his output of films had slowed, and he was no longer the box office draw he once was. His final film, Never Give a Sucker an Even Break, was released in 1941. While it was well received, it marked the end of an era for Fields, who by then was struggling to maintain his career amid worsening health and growing financial difficulties. As Fields' health continued to decline, he became increasingly reclusive. He retreated to his home in California, where he lived alone, surrounded by mementos of his career. Despite his poor health, Fields continued to write and work on new projects, but his physical condition made it difficult for him to see many of them through to completion. Fields' alcoholism had advanced to the point where he was consuming large quantities of alcohol daily, further weakening his already fragile body. His once robust frame had wasted away, leaving him frail and emaciated. He was frequently hospitalized for various ailments, but his condition continued to deteriorate. By December 1946, Fields was gravely ill, suffering from advanced cirrhosis of the liver and pneumonia, a complication of his chronic bronchitis. Despite his dire condition, Fields maintained his trademark wit and humor until the very end. Even as he lay on his deathbed, he reportedly quipped to a nurse, "I'm in the hospital and not the least bit sick," a reflection of his lifelong ability to find humor in even the darkest situations. Fields passed away on December 25, 1946, at the age of 66. His death marked the end of a remarkable career and the passing of one of the most distinctive voices in American comedy. Fields was cremated, and his ashes were interred in a mausoleum at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California. In keeping with his wishes, his epitaph reads simply, "All things considered, I'd rather be in Philadelphia," a fitting final joke from a man who spent his life finding humor in the absurd. W.C. Fields' legacy as a comedian and actor has endured long after his death. His unique brand of humor, characterized by its cynicism, sarcasm, and dark wit, has influenced generations of comedians and filmmakers. Fields' ability to blend physical comedy with sharp dialogue set a standard for future performers, and his films remain popular with audiences and critics alike. Fields' influence can be seen in the work of later comedians such as Groucho Marx, Bob Hope, and Woody Allen, all of whom cited him as an inspiration. His persona as a lovable curmudgeon who navigated the absurdities of life with wit and resilience continues to resonate with audiences, and his films are still regarded as classics of American cinema. Fields was also a pioneer in his portrayal of the anti-hero, a character who, despite his many flaws, manages to win the audience's sympathy. This archetype would go on to become a staple of American comedy, influencing countless films and television shows in the decades that followed. Fields' work laid the foundation for the modern comedy we know today, and his influence can still be seen in the sharp, cynical humor of contemporary comedians. Despite his personal struggles and the sad circumstances of his final years, W.C. Fields' contributions to the world of comedy remain undeniable. He was a trailblazer, pushing the boundaries of what comedy could be and challenging audiences to laugh at life's absurdities. Fields' legacy is not just that of a great comedian, but of a man who used humor to explore the human condition, revealing the truth beneath the surface of society's many facades.